On the battlefield, time is the only resource you can never get back. But there is a lethal misunderstanding that kills more soldiers than bullets: the confusion between swiftness and haste. This brings us to this lesson: be swift, not hasty. Sun Tzu reminds us that the quality of a decision is measured by its calculation, not just its clock speed. Speed is a multiplier, but if you multiply by zero, by a lack of thought, the result is always disaster. What's the difference? A swift action is like a strike delivered with maximum velocity, but it is born from a finished thought. It's like a coiled spring released at exactly the right moment. A hasty action, however, is a panic response. It is movement for the sake of movement, usually triggered by fear or pressure. Sun Tzu offers a sobering reality. Acting under extreme time pressure is a recipe for mistakes. When you move in haste, you aren't the architect of the battle anymore. You become its victim. However, and this is critical, even a hasty mistake is often better than stagnation. A stagnant army is a sitting target. The goal is to eliminate that pressure entirely by anticipating the danger before the clock even starts ticking. The conflict in Ukraine serves as a masterclass in this distinction. Take the haste of the Vuhledar assaults. We've seen instances where commanders, under immense political pressure to show progress, launched armored columns towards prepared defenses without proper demining or drone suppression. That was haste. It wasn't a move dictated by a tactical opening, but by a deadline. The results were catastrophic. Equipment and lives were lost in minutes because they moved before they thought the problem through. Take the swiftness of the Kharkiv breakthrough. Contrast that with the 2022 Kharkiv counteroffensive. The Ukrainian command waited, they calculated, they observed the earth and found the seams in the line. When the moment was right, they moved with incredible swiftness. It was high speed and overwhelming, but it wasn't a panic. Every unit knew its objective because the tempo calculation had already been done. The purpose of being swift is to seize the initiative before the enemy can react. But to do that, you must be the one who controls the tempo. If you find yourself acting as a pure reaction to your opponent's move, you are moving in haste. You are being led by a leash. Here is your war tip. Decisive actions are only beneficial if you take the time to think them through. Think first and then move with speed. Never move in haste or as a reaction to pressure. If you feel the walls are closing in, take the thinking pause. If you've anticipated the danger, you won't need to rush. You'll already be moving. Speed kills, but only if you're the one steering it. If you move in haste, you aren't an attacker. You're just a target in a hurry. Be swift, not hasty. In our exploration, we've seen that victory isn't necessarily handed to the fastest runner, but to the one who knows exactly when to sprint. Sun Tzu's final word on this is simple. Speed is a tool, but calculation is the master. If you use speed without calculation, you are merely rushing towards your own end. But if you use speed as the final stage of a deep tempo calculation, you become an unstoppable force. As we look at the high-velocity landscape of the Russia-Ukraine war in 2026, the cost of confusing these two concepts has never been higher. Take the trap of the reactive move. Look at the Russian response to the 2024 Kursk incursion. In the opening hours, the Kremlin moved in haste. They grabbed whatever units were nearby, unprepared conscripts and border guards, and threw them in the path of a mechanized offensive. It was a move born of panic and political pressure. Because they didn't take the thinking pause, those units were neutralized before they could even deploy. That is the tragedy of haste. It is movement without method. Take the precision of the swift strike. Conversely, Consider the Ukrainian deep strike drone campaign against Russian energy and logistics hubs. These are not panicked reactions to frontline pressure. They are swift, pre-calculated operations. The Ukrainian command anticipates the enemy's phase of strength and strikes months of fuel and ammunition before it even reaches a tank. They move fast because they have already spent weeks thinking the problem through. They are the architects of the temple, not the victims of it. The difference between a guess and a strategy is the time you take to observe the earth and the heaven before you move. In 2026, where satellite data and AI driven intelligence move at the speed of light, the thinking pause is more valuable than ever. Here is your final war tip for the command center. Anticipate the danger before it arises. If you find yourself under extreme time pressure, you have already missed the first test of strategy. The goal is to be the only person on the battlefield who isn't surprised. If you are rushing, you are vulnerable. If you are stagnant, you are a target. But if you are swift, you are the storm. In the high stakes reality of modern conflict, the most powerful weapon isn't a missile. It is a mind that knows how to wait, how to calculate, and then how to strike with speed that leaves the enemy frozen in the past. He who masters the difference between haste and swiftness masters the war.